This is the Steam Deck. I've been using it for the past couple of weeks and I've been absolutely loving it. Now, while I could focus on the tech specs, and trust me, I'm a sucker for good tech specs, I feel there is nothing I could say about the tech itself that hasn't been said. Instead, I'm going to focus on the experience of using this device and the journey it gives you. The deck comes in a pretty nonchalant box with a few cute Easter eggs on it. See if you can spot those. This device feels great in the hands. It has some standard control buttons and some nice trackpads that allow for playing games that weren't necessarily built for control or gaming. Yes, it's a big machine even compared to other handheld gaming PCs. The Switch is absolutely dwarfed by it, but honestly it doesn't feel heavy, to me at least, once it's in hand. Let's be honest, most of us are used to carrying around laptops and tablets that are much larger than this device. Size and weight aren't really an issue. The day of pocketable handhelds are long gone. My favorite thing about this device is the ease of use. I'm a fairly tech-savvy person. I've built several PCs, some for gaming and some for CAD work. I've modded game files and tweaked the PC settings to perfection. I 3D print and code too. I'm no stranger to tinkering, and this device is just so seamless to use that you don't need to tinker, unless you want to. It's the way PC gaming should be. Functional out of the box, but if you want to adjust things to your preference, then you can. The deck has a sorting feature at the top of the library that sorts games by a couple categories. Great on deck is the most useful to sort out what works on the Steam Deck without issues. This is perfect for someone who just got into gaming and doesn't want to think about it too much. At my personal library of 300 or so games, disregarding 50 or so VR games, about 100 are considered great on deck. But a lot of games that aren't great on deck do work. I found that Assassin's Creed 2 worked without an issue along with Arkham City. Some research on ProtonDB can reveal other games that work, but it's nice to have a built-in filter for this. If you're new to PC gaming and want to indulge your nostalgia by buying up PC versions of PS3, Xbox 360, PS4, Xbox One games, or even just want to buy the latest games and don't have a Steam account until you got this, then stick to the Great on Deck section when buying. Don't worry, it'll give you a tutorial on how to navigate it as soon as it boots up for the first time. Welcome to PC gaming. This seamlessness is what I wanted my PC to be like when I first got into PC gaming. The deck also treats SD cards just like a Switch would treat a cartridge. Once games are installed on an SD card, the games are automatically added to your library as though they were installed directly on the internal drive. When you take it out, the games go away without any special warnings or hiccups occurring. No need to reboot. Then you put the SD card back in and it loads them back into the menu without issues. That's it. It just works. The support on this thing is great too. With Sony releasing all their games on PC and making sure they are great on deck, you can make your own PSP or PS Vita too. God of War, Spider-Man Remastered, Horizon Zero Dawn, Days Gone, and Death Stranding are all playable. The upcoming releases of Uncharted and The Last of Us, Part 1 and 2, will probably be playable too. You can also get all the old PlayStation consoles, including the PSP, working on this. More on that later. I actually have a theory behind why Sony is releasing all its games on PC that I might share at a later date, and it doesn't just involve wanting more money, though that is a factor, of course. You can play most modern Xbox games, like Halo or Sunset Overdrive, an original launch title for the Xbox One, on PC so you can make the handheld Xbox that never was. The only games that really have an issue right now are online multiplayer games, not because they don't actually work, but because the anti-cheat programs, things that stop the cheaters from cheating in games, are used in a lot of multiplayer games. It doesn't play well with Linux yet. This is what the Steam Deck runs instead of Windows. Some multiplayer does work, so it needs to be determined on a case-by-case basis. It's just good to keep that in mind. Unfortunately, unless you set up your own server, multiplayer games may run into issues. A lot of developers are working on fixing this issue, so hopefully you can play more multiplayer on this eventually. But what you may ask if you're a console gamer, why can I play all these old games on this machine? It's not running Windows. My Switch can't play Assassin's Creed or Arkham games without a port. My PS5 can't play PS3 games unless they are remade with a PS5 and I buy them again. Well, the reason it can do it is because of Proton. The secret sauce of this machine is the Proton compatibility layer that allows Windows games to play in Linux. So no need to make a Steam Deck version of a game. Though hopefully it will become more common to port due to the added performance a native version will bring, assuming the Steam Deck is popular enough. The Steam Deck also supports every controller you can imagine that has Bluetooth functionality or wired connection. You can connect all the controllers from your old consoles like the PS3, PS4, PS5, Switch controller, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and Xbox Elite controller. The long forgotten Steam controller works after you update the firmware to make it Bluetooth enabled. Even Switch Joy-Cons work. Not just one of the Joy-Cons, but both of them together working together to play a game. So you can play your games exactly the way you would on Switch when you take out the controller and play in single player. Now, if you want to play some local multi-player Steam Deck itself with friends or family, you can. Link up two controllers and you can play a variety of two-player games on one screen. Granted, it will need to be propped up by something since there is no stand built into the Steam Deck, or you're going to have to play it at a weird angle while it's laying down. You may have to make some adjustments to get multiple controllers to work right with some games because of how Steam handles controllers. This is also a great way to play if using the built-in controllers for a long period of time is difficult. Rumble can be a bit of a problem for some games, often lasting for longer than it should, but it can be turned off. This will be such a money saver if you're coming from owning a console or just want to buy some controllers on the cheap for some easy multiplayer. This kind of support is unheard of in console gaming and is a big value. Once you get accustomed to the more straightforward features, you might want to go on to something more advanced and tinker or do some experimentation with the Steam Deck. Thankfully, that's a pretty seamless experience too. It has some cool techie features that are easy to mess with for anyone who wants to crank up game settings like a frame rate counter, temperature reading, even ways to adjust the amount of power it uses. If you hold down the power button or press the Steam button and click on the power, you get an option for desktop mode where you can do as you wish, not like popping the hood of your car. Now you have a full PC that feels a lot like Windows. Again, it's clear that there was a focus on ease of use when designing the desktop mode, since it looks a lot like Windows, the most commonly used computer in the world. From here it operates like a PC because it is. It picks up a mouse and keyboard with no issue. If the screen text is too small or feels too cramped, you can connect it to a monitor or TV for easier reading and game modding via USB-C hub. Valve plans to release their own dock eventually that, as far as we know, is essentially a USB-C hub with some nice housing, but in the meantime, a USB-C hub or third-party dock works. When you're on the desktop, you can make some games that don't work on Steam Deck work by downloading Proton GE. GE standing for Glorious Eggroll, and no, I don't have any idea why it's called that. Enforce compatibility in Steam by going to Properties, then Compatibility, and setting it to the latest version of Proton. For some reason, Valve wasn't able to get the rights to some parts of Proton, but thankfully this can fix it. And it can be enabled on a case-by-case basis, so no worrying about messing up other games or messing up anti-cheats in games. This mod made the Steam version of Arkham Asylum work. I also installed a mod natively to the deck that allows the PC version of Arkham Asylum to have a playable Joker. And it's the same mod that I used on Windows with no issue and with no Linux version available for it. In my opinion, this is a great way to start modding. You can run modded Skyrim or Fallout here with custom maps, quests, and possibly some graphical updates since the games are so old. I then installed Emulators, which is just an auto installer for emulators. It basically installs all the emulators you could ever need. Well, you do need BIOS files and texture caching for some of these, like the PS2 and Wii U. It handles all the games like a champ. You can play Wii U, PS3, and lower with minimal issues. You can basically play the entire PlayStation back catalog on one device. Not even Sony can claim to be able to let you do that. You can play Switch games, but it's still a bit temperamental, and I can't show it here. I can't promise everything will work all the time since I didn't test every game that it could emulate, but it's good overall. Desktop mode does have some weirdness when using the touchscreen, like the keyboard not automatically coming up if you type in an area you want to type in, but I'm sure that'll get fixed down the line. The USB-C hub has a few other advantages besides easier reading and game modding. Of course, you can plug it into a USB-C hub to play games on a large screen. It does just swap between the Steam Deck screen and a TV without issue. Keep in mind you can change this setting and make it work as a dual screen between the Steam Deck screen and a TV or monitor. You could still use the Steam Deck as a controller when it's docked. As previously mentioned, controllers work and you aren't limited to just having one controller attached to it, so you could play some local co-op on the big screen. This also extends to emulators, so you can enjoy your emulated games on a big screen. When it comes to native PC gaming, you will need to go to Settings, Properties, General, and change default resolution. Then adjust the game graphics settings in-game. This means most games need to be adjusted on a case-by-case basis, at least for now. Hopefully Valve or some enterprising modders figure out how to adjust these automatically and still have the option to adjust it to your preferences. Alternatively, games could also do this with a built-in docked mode, with the option to have a performance or graphics mode. God of War looked surprisingly good running at 1080p 30 FPS. Most games that were released for and around the time of the Xbox 360, PS3, and Wii will look great, often looking as good if not better than these consoles, often playing at a higher than 1080p resolution at 60 FPS, though not necessarily hitting 4K. That's limited more to indie games. You could also treat the deck as a regular workaday PC for basic tasks like editing documents or just watching YouTube. Granted, most of us have several more convenient devices that do this, but hey, it's fun to think. Sometimes you do things because you can. If you already have a gaming PC or decide to get or build one because you pushed your Steam Deck as far as you could with mods and peripherals, there are a couple things to keep in mind. The deck can serve as a nice addition to your PC gaming or general setup. I booted up the Steam Deck and saw my old save file for Assassin's Creed that I haven't touched in nearly 7 years sitting there. The deck can take full advantage of Steam's cloud save feature, so you can play your games on your powerful gaming PC at home and then pick it up and continue to play on the deck. Similar to that feature that was initially pushed by Sony with the PS Vita and PS3, some games could start on PS3, and the saves would transfer over to PS Vita and vice versa. Granted, it was poorly implemented since you often need to buy both versions of the games at full price. Now you can play certain parts of the game on your lunch break or on a bus ride home, like a difficult boss, or work on leveling up your character to do all those collect X number of whatever missions that are present in many Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and RPG games. I was honestly surprised the saves transferred over. In a way, it's kind of a Nintendo Switch, but instead of one device, it's two. You can also stream games from your PC, which is nice if you can't get your hands on a big enough micro SD card, or files just take up too much space. But for me personally, I would rarely use this, since I would use the Steam Deck in places where the Wi-Fi is not too good. You can also stream from a PS5, and Xbox Game Pass works too, with some workarounds via browser apps. You can't play a game on your PC at the same time you are playing on the deck, or it will log you out of your PC. While Steam has always done this if you have an account open on two different machines, this feels kind of wrong to do on a handheld. I feel they should at least allow you to play two different games if you have one on the PC and the other one on the Steam Deck. Part of the advantage of having both of these devices could be that a family member could pick up the PC while you play on this. A minor nitpick, I know. Granted, you could get around this by turning off Wi-Fi. Your saves would just transfer over after it reconnects. There have been some issues with offline mode where you can't play the games at all. Nothing that I've played with has had an issue with playing in offline mode, so your mileage will vary. This is the simplest, most convenient gaming PC you will ever use. You won't get 4K out of most of the games, but 1080p 30 to 60 FPS is easily obtainable. Now, who should bother with this device? In my opinion, anyone interested in gaming. The Steam Deck is unique in that it appears to have a rare quality that most devices don't have, and I don't think most people have noticed yet. The brilliance of this device is that it has the power to turn any non-gamer into a gamer. The genius it takes to design something that works for everyone the way the Steam Deck does is nothing short of amazing. It's a great machine for all parts of your gaming life. From the day you get into gaming, and this is your only gaming PC, to the day you build your first full tower gaming PC. And I can't think of anyone who has an interest in gaming who wouldn't like this device in some way. A newcomer, casual gamer, or console-oriented gamer is going to enjoy playing big games like Far Cry, God of War, not needing to tinker with settings to get most of their games working, and just general ease of use. Most adult gamers with busier lives will enjoy the convenience of not needing to sit in front of a game console or a PC to indulge their hobby, and if they have the time, they can just connect it. The enthusiast gamer will enjoy being able to play the more monotonous parts of a game in their downtime at work or on their way home, on the train, while still being able to play the more epic parts on their home TV or monitor on their PC. The tinkerer will find the ability to customize settings and mod games worth hours of fun. Finally, it's a great machine if you want to play games from your childhood without having to set up a dozen consoles and have them take up all the space around your TV, all your HDMI ports, and all your bookshelf space. You also won't be risking a fire hazard. For the price point, it's a better value than most PCs and better than most consoles in terms of the quantity of games that can be played on it. Go try it out.